Life Rhythms with Ryan Skyy. Observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all.
Hey guys, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm so excited to say that. I'm your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. What's Life Rhythms, you ask? Well, Life Rhythms is a radio show that revolves around my personal growth journey. It's a personal growth show. You see, as a songwriter and music producer, I spend a lot of my time observing the world around me, looking inward, trying to make sense of it all. I've been doing it in song form, and now I'm doing it in my radio show, Season 2. So excited. Today, I've got a very special guest. We've got Cheat Codes on, specifically Matt. Cheat Codes is a group made up of Matt, Kevin, and Trevor, and they are absolutely crushing it. They've got over 15 million monthly listeners on Spotify. They've done collaborations with Demi Lovato. I, as a DJ, play a lot of their records. I love their music, and I'm excited to be talking with Matt from Cheat Codes today and featuring their song, Heaven, which actually you heard a little snippet of Heaven coming into this segment. Heaven, we're going to be talking about, and the reason why I chose this song for today's episode is because we're going to be talking about love and infatuation. We're going to be talking about what kinds of love is healthy and when we can get confused with unhealthy types of love. The lyrics of Heaven, they talk about blind faith when I'm falling for you. It's that all-consuming love is what this song to me is about when I look at these words, about creating our own heaven. It's about having that experience where you fall in love with someone, and in that moment you reach this highest state of your being that it almost feels like you're experiencing your own form of heaven, whatever that means to you. We're going to be talking about that today with Matt. We're going to be talking about what his views of heaven and love are. We're going to be talking about relationship stuff, career stuff. Very excited about that. You know, to me, love is recognizing yourself in another and recognizing yourself as that essential self. And there's so many songs that are written about it. And I think that this is the perfect way to be starting Season 2 is with Heaven by Cheat Codes. So when we get back after this break, we're going to have Matt. We're going to be talking about Heaven. I've got my co-host Scott Waldman joining me, all when we get back from the short break. Hey guys, welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm your host, DJ producer Ryan Skyy. I've got my co-host with me, Scott Waldman. Hey Scott.
Season 2, what it do?
Oh, yes. And a very special guest, our first guest of Season 2. So excited to have Matt from Cheat Codes on. Hey, Matt.
What's up? I didn't realize this is the first episode of Season 2.
Yes, surprise.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's dope.
Yeah, you're going to be our debut for Season 2.
Are blind.
Yeah, so okay, Scott is the ninja when it comes to lyric tie-ins, so for those of you listening, so with Life Rhythms, we always feature one song, and the song that you heard coming into this episode is a song by Matt's group, Cheat Codes, and the song is called Heaven. And Scott, what was the lyric you just?
I was making a dad joke that you like. I said, when guests are blind, which is a play on when love is blind.
Right.
Wow.
Oh.
I know. Funny to one person, and his name is Ryan. That's how I got the gig.
Nice.
Yeah, so the song that we're featuring today is a song called Heaven by Cheat Codes. And the topic of today is we're going to be talking about when love is blind, when love is all-consuming. What does that mean? Why do we get like that? We have three of us on the show, so I imagine we're going to have different perspectives. I always write a quote for each episode. And the quote that I wrote for today goes like this: "We must love in such a way that the other person feels free. They must feel free to come and go because true love asks nothing of the other. True love is not wanting or needing, it's appreciating. As soon as we attach expectations onto another person, love becomes something else entirely, and it will lead to disappointment. So have an abundance mindset and love will come naturally and flow freely into your life."
Wow.
That's what I say.
Super relatable for sure. That's definitely my mentality as well. Like there's always that quote I love to bring up. It's not really a quote, but like Will Smith talks about his marriage and he's always talking about how they don't actually work on their marriage. They just work on themselves and then present the best version of themselves to each other.
Wow.
So I believe really strongly in that. I'm actually in a relationship right now. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary, so that's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
But yeah, when we kind of started talking, it was kind of that same mentality that you just said. Was I was very focused on myself and focused on just developing an abundance mentality and just appreciating everything around me. And then we kind of connected on happenstance, just the universe kind of just brought us together using, law of attraction and just all that manifesting, kind of like we were both trying to manifest like a specific type of partner, and we kind of just both knocked every check mark off of each other's list.
Did you actually write out what you wanted in a partner?
I have before, yeah.
How soon before you met this person did you write this out?
Probably like, I don't know, 3-4 months before that, probably.
That is insane. I was watching an interview with Tony Robbins, and he was saying the same thing where after years of failed relationships and just choosing the wrong people, he finally sat down and he wrote a detailed list of exactly what he wanted in a person. And then, of course, his story is so amazing because he was on a train in Switzerland, going through the Swiss Alps, and he meets this woman on the train, and they had an instant connection, and they immediately started dating. And he pulled out his list, and she was everything on the list.
Right.
And she had a list, and he was everything on her list. And it's like they both manifested each other.
Yeah, it was like the same exact thing. But I'm younger, so I'm not going to lie. I met her on a dating app, so.
I met my wife on Tinder.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that,
Yeah, let's talk about this song, Heaven, these lyrics, because when I was going through the song, I love the song, by the way. It's fun, it's catchy, but what it seems like an all-consuming love. Like, for instance, I'll do anything you want me to for this heaven. This person is so in love and so in the moment that in that moment they feel like they'll do anything for that person. Lying in this bed with you, I'm in heaven. I'll do anything you want me to for this heaven. Yeah,
it's so funny. I was just watching. I think it was like, trying to think of the exact year, but it was like this old Chris Tucker stand up, and he like had this whole joke of, he's like, when you first start dating something, like the girlfriend will do whatever for you, make you dinner, like do whatever, and then the second you get married, she's like, make your own food. Like, I don't care. And I just feel like it's that when you're in that moment of like, just, you're, like you said, such appreciation for just the world and your life and the person that you're with, then you kind of have that mentality of like, yeah, like whatever you want, like I got you. Like, you know what I mean? It's not even like a big thing. So I think it's definitely a gratitude thing with that line. But if you're going to talk about like personal stuff during this lockdown,
yeah,
there were some moments like 10 days into the lockdown where I was scared, man. I was scared. I was like, do I need to get a gun? Like I thought the world was ending. There was like helicopters around my apartment, like every night. Like people were fighting over toilet paper. I didn't know what was going on.
Yes, toilet paper.
Yeah, but I was locked in with my girl, and that was kind of the only thing keeping me sane. So I'm sure there's a lot of people there where they had their quarantine partner.
Yes.
So it's like the world outside is so crazy and everything is like stressful. The news stresses you out, everything. And then you can just lay in bed with your partner and it's like all of that goes away.
You guys can both talk about that more than I can because I live alone. I have my dog, Remix.
Yeah, you could lay in your bed with your dog and it's like heaven. And it doesn't have to be a girl.
Yeah, I have my partner. I live with a Frenchie. His name's Remix, and he's my quarantine.
I bet you argue with Remix a lot less than I do with my wife.
Oh, yeah. Has there been so you talk about the first 10 days and having this quarantine. It's nice to have this person to quarantine with, but I imagine it's got to be ups and downs where sometimes you want space and then sometimes you're so grateful they're there.
I mean, it's mostly gratitude, but I can tell you that like when you're living in a confined space and now we have a baby as well, Matt. So it's a lot. Sometimes we just need to get in the other room and watch really stupid television that the other one would never watch.
Yeah. I definitely have some friends that have been losing their minds just like with their significant other, but I think it brought me closer together with this person,
There's been a lot of divorces, actually, public ones. I mean, we're good. I mean, I feel that whenever someone was just like, "Oh my God, you guys are getting married! Wow, wow, wow!" I'm like, we've lived together for over a year before we got married. Like, it's really not any different. There's just a title.
Right. Yeah, I'm lucky. I have my own space. My girlfriend has her own space. So I think that's a big difference, when you feel like you don't have your own space and then you can just lose your mind.
Yeah. So there's definitely divorces, but also quarantine babies, which my brother just recently announced that they're having their first baby and happening in quarantine. So there's, good stuff happening as well.
The second wave of the boomers.
You want to hear something crazy?
Corona baby.
When John Lennon was killed in December of 1980, apparently around 9 months after that happened was another baby boom.
Because remember he was doing the whole, what was it called? Where he was like staying in bed with Yoko Ono.
Bed piece?
Yeah, the bed piece. It was like the protest thing that he was doing.
Yeah,
like everyone was just like so inspired by that. They were just like, I'm just going to stay inside and just have mad sex.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the right girl.
Oh. So you talk about how you manifested this current relationship. Did that come out of, is this the first time you've done that? What was your experience before this with love, infatuation, and those sorts of things that brought you to wanting to do something like that?
I think with anything that you're trying to do in life, you got to get clear on that. And I think I really believe in that. And I think a lot of people, their relationships, they don't put as much thought into as they would put in as their career or like a goal that they're setting. Like most people aren't like making their relationship goals. You know what I mean? Their relationships just happen by default. So I think a lot of my relationships beforehand were just people that were in the proximity that I liked. You know what I mean? I wasn't putting a lot of thought into it. I wasn't like making sure we were on the same page as far as priorities and values and all that. So once I was single again for a good amount of time and I clarified what I wanted, then I realized like, oh, okay, this is why I haven't manifested something that was like long lasting to how I wanted it to be, Because
before you were kind of just going by your emotions and just what was happening instead of really being more thoughtful.
Yeah, it's like if you're not setting that intention, then sometimes the world will come at you and you're just victim to whatever is around you. I mean, this whole lockdown situation is a perfect example. It's like if you just watch the news every day, you're going to be depressed. You got to set your intention, for what you want. You can't let people set it for you. It's like if they're telling you need to be scared and sad right now, and you're listening to them, then
you're going to be scared and sad.
Yeah,
I'm already scared and sad. Thanks.
Yeah.
Stay home, Scott. Stay home.
I'm following my own advice, fool.
It's cool that actually we're doing this topic for the start of season 2 because Matt, season 1, episode 1. The topic of that episode was attachment theory. I don't know if you've heard of attachment theory before. But the concept is basically that the first 2 years of our life, the experience that we have, the first people that we attach to are our caregivers, our parents. And in those first 2 years, whatever our experience is attaching to our parents, that then forms our view, our personal worldview of what we think love is and what it means. And then that translates as adults how we show up in our relationships. So as adults, we are basically living out our experiences as children. And we all are basically going about things like we all have our own set of rules and guidelines that we learned as a kid of what we think love means. And not being aware of what your attachment style is. Like for instance, some people develop more of an avoidant attachment style. Some people become more anxious where those are like the needy people where they're like, they need reassurance and they text a lot and, send you like huge paragraphs. And if you don't respond quick enough, they're like, hello, did you get my text? There's like the anxious side.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. There's a spectrum.
I might be the avoidant. I'm not sure.
Avoidant? I was on more of the avoidance side, but a lot of relationship problems stem from people not being aware of, first of all, their own attachment style, which dictates their own behaviors, but also their partners. And so you start to misinterpret each other because you're interpreting their actions based off of your worldview.
Exactly.
And they're doing the same thing. And so there's a misunderstanding. And the reason, so I like that we're talking about this for season 2, because I guess you could say episode 1, season 1 is like being attracted to people kind of unconsciously. You're just going on your emotions, and you don't really, just because you like someone doesn't mean they're good for you. And until you have an awareness and you become conscious of what it is that you want, like you said, Matt, having intentions, maybe writing it out, then it actually meets the right person for you.
And sometimes people can attract what they want and what they need from that same person that they're with. It doesn't mean you have to like discard people in your life, but it's like if you're not aware of qualities and needs and conversations that you want to attract, whatever it is, then your chances of getting it are way lower. You know what I mean? Just getting it by accident. But that conversation I've had so many times. It sounds very similar to love languages. I don't know if you are aware of that, but it's like a really small book that I read. But every time I'm in a relationship, I always make sure to like ask them what theirs is, because it's such a big thing. Because mine is affirmations. I just like, if you're saying like weird, not abusive, but like insulting things to me, I really take it to heart. But my partner might be more touchy-feely, like she wants to be touched all the time. So I'm thinking I'm doing my part by being like complimenting her, but to her that she doesn't really care about that. Like
what is her love language?
Yeah, her love language is
touching,
physical touch. Yeah. So I'm like, what are you tripping about? I just told you like you're amazing and like I'm grateful for you. You're perfect. And she's like, no, but like you're halfway across the world. Like I want to like hug you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Scott, what's your love language?
Mad affection.
You like physical. You like the physical touch.
I like that in words of affirmation.
It's interesting because if you look online, there are correlations between different attachment styles and what your love languages are. Typically somebody, from what I remember, somebody who is more avoidant, one of the love languages tend to be words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Words.
Because, I travel a lot, so I'm always around the world, and I have no issue being by myself or being around people that don't even speak the same language as me. So as long as like even this lockdown, it's like it sucked because I haven't been able to see as many people. I haven't seen my family for almost like 6 or 7 months, for example. But talking to them on the phone for me it feels like enough. I know that's not necessarily enough. I don't feel like I'm missing anybody or missing like a big hole in my life or anything.
That's because we don't hang out. Once we hang out, you're gonna have a huge hole in your life as soon as.
I'm gonna be depressed.
Look, we have a vaccine, right, Scott?
Say that again.
So we need a vaccine, right, to get you out of
that. Yeah, dude, Matt, I have a 10-month-old baby, so I'm extra paranoid, and I don't think I'm going out until there's a vaccine or till something. So
maybe you'll be one of the early guinea pigs, the early test subjects.
Did you just call me a guinea pig?
Kosher.
Yeah, I'm not a guinea pig. That's not kosher. I'm a guinea kosher killed chicken.
Yeah, so we're talking about love. We're talking about relationships. I think it's really interesting, Matt. So you said you've been in this relationship for 2 years, or a couple years, right?
Yep.
And you started Cheat Codes around 2013?
Yeah, probably like 2014.
This mindset of being intentional, did you learn that from the success of your career to start other areas of your life?
I started getting into that once I moved to LA. I moved to LA about 8 years ago, and I just started meeting people that I think I vibe with. One of my really good friends, his name's Harry Paul. He's actually a shaman. You should look him up if you ever need like a healing. He does like breath work. He got me into meditation. He got me into like a lot of books like Law of Attraction, and one of the best books ever, I think, is called Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks. You should check that one out.
I love Esther Hicks.
Also, I'm trying to think of the name of the book. Power of Now is also one of the best books.
Yeah, I was going to mention him later on in the episode.
Yeah. Matt, where are you from originally?
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri originally. So when I was growing up there, I never heard of any of this stuff. I never heard of intention. I never heard of meditation. I never heard of breath work. Now during all this lockdown stuff, it's like I'm doing breath work every day and then like feel amazing. You know what I mean? I'm making sure my lungs are healthy and stuff like that. Things that I would have never done like 8 years ago. And so I'm grateful for all that. But I think going into cheat codes, we all had that mentality of like, if we can get really clear on what we want and what we want to happen, then we can make it happen. And that was kind of the, you know, quote unquote, the cheat code for us. Like we were watching videos of Avicii playing at Ultra Music and being like, oh, we want to play Main Stage Ultra. Like we want to play Tomorrowland. We want to play all these big festivals. We want to have, you know, a song on the radio.
Yeah.
We asked for all that stuff like in 2014.
The universe, or specifically you were asking people for that?
Yeah, we were all three of us together were asking. If you read any of these books, one of the things it tells you is like there has to be no resistance when you're asking, you know. So, you know, it'd be in like a fun when you're in your friend group and you're like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we played this festival in front of 10,000 people? Yeah, that'd be really cool. You know, that's the best way to put those things out into the universe. You know, you can't make it like a try too hard.
Yeah, I was reading an interview you did, and you guys were talking about your collaboration with Demi Lovato, and I was reading about you were working on the song, and the song was built around the vocals, and you guys were saying to yourselves like, who would be the most ideal person for this record?
Right.
And you guys had said Demi Lovato. And what I love is in the interview, you were saying that you decided that she was the best for the song, and you were just like, screw it, like let's go for Demi Lovato. And you actually reached out to her team.
I'm pretty sure she was the only one on the list. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie. Like most of the times, we will like have, you know, 3 to 5 people in mind, and we'll reach out. You know, but for that specific song, I'm pretty sure we just had her on the list. Like that was it. And maybe there's something to that. Maybe, you know, that's the way to go. You know, what's the quote? It's like, you burn all your ships. Like the whole explorer, he came to like whatever. You burn your ships, and then you can't have any possibility of retreating, and you just have to make it happen.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like a good way to make something happen.
Yeah, I love that mentality. Is that something that's shared with Kevin and Trevor, the other two guys in Cheat Codes?
Yeah, for sure. I think we definitely had like different challenges and ways of going about things, but something we learned pretty quickly was if you want to make something happen, you got to go straight for it. Growing up, I had a lot of mentality and just people around me of like, well, if you want to make good money, you need to go to college and you need to do this. Like the emphasis is on the 3 steps that you're supposed to do to get what you want, versus if you just go straight for what you want, you might get it in a completely different way. So if you're focused on the things you're supposed to do to get what you want, then you're actually closing yourself off and you're not open to attracting it in a very unique way. Like the Tony Robbins thing, if he wasn't open to meeting that girl on that cruise, he would have never met her. He would have just stayed alone or just stayed in his cabin or just, you know what I mean, stuck to his agenda or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, if you don't know what you're looking for, how are you going to know when you see it, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Something that I've learned more recently in my life, and it's something I wish I had learned a lot sooner, but it's just the journey that we're on. It blows my mind how people take advice in various areas of their life from people that are not living the kind of life that they want to live.
It's a big recipe for disaster.
Even just relationship advice, taking relationship advice from somebody who doesn't have the kind of relationship you want. Or like, for instance, I also grew up in a small town in Western Pennsylvania. I'm like nobody in my family. I don't really know how I turned out the way I did. I also didn't know anything about, like you were saying, breath work and meditation and the power of now and all of these sorts of things that I'm into now. I was taking advice as a kid from people in my small town, but they weren't living the kind of life that I dreamed for myself. But I was starting to take their advice and basically make decisions off of what they were telling me. And it took me a while to realize to start tuning out certain people and to really pay attention to who I'm actually taking advice from. Is that something that
you have a choice? Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Where I'm from in Missouri, everybody that I told that I was going to move to LA, I'm not going to say everybody discouraged me, but they all wanted to play devil's advocate at the very least and say, well, isn't LA very dangerous? Isn't LA very expensive? Are you sure that you have I think I had a job where I was making like $15, $16 an hour, which is like pretty good, back in like 2012 when I was like 19 years old. Like, but you have such a good job. And like, if you work this job for another year, you're going to get benefits. Like, are you going to throw that away? Like, I'm like, well, I don't care about this job. I want to be doing music. So I totally agree with that. And I just think that the other thing that they always say is like, surround yourself with the best 5 people, better than you. And you're going to like be on that same level or whatever. Your environment is a big indicator of where you're going to go and who you're going to become. But you can choose. You can choose your environment. You can
choose and who you hang out with. I've heard that as well about we tend to be the average sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And it makes sense because who you spend time with, the way that they live their lives, their opinions, their thought patterns, that affects you, good or bad. And you can choose that for yourself.
And Matt, very quickly, the people that were critiquing you moving to LA because it might have been dangerous, I played the creepy crawl. I don't remember that being.
Oh, the creepy crawl. Wow. That is a throwback. I used to go there every weekend as a 13-year-old, go pay $8 to go see a punk band.
You might have seen, I used to be in a band on Columbia Records called the City Drive. We were like a pop punk band, and we played Warped Tour in St. Louis in 2006. And
what's it called? The Creepy Crawl?
The Creepy Crawl. It was really only a venue for like 2 years of me going to shows. That was like the era that got me into music. And it's like, I love that there was just shows every weekend, and they would be like $8. Those were the types of shows. I actually met Skrillex because he was
from First to Last.
He was from First to Last, and he was opening for Motion City Soundtrack. It was like an $8 show, and they were the opening band, and nobody knew who they were. And I remember he even asked the crowd. He was like, "Raise your hand if you've never heard from First to Last before." And I like raised my hand, and I felt like a dork because I didn't know who they were. We were like talking outside the venue after the show, and I was just like, he just got on his tour bus and like they drove away on to the next show, and I was like, man, that would be cool. I want to do what that guy's doing. You know what I mean? And I think it's important the more conversations you have with people that are doing things that you want to do, it becomes normal for you. It normalizes it, and it feels like possible. So I remember that was a conversation that I had at 14 years old that made me be like, okay, this guy's actually only a couple years older than me. He was only like 16 at the time or something, I think.
He was a kid.
And I was like 14, and he was, living his dream, touring the country, playing in this metal band that he wanted to play in. So that was a moment for me of just being like, I could do this. I could actually do this.
Well, speaking of doing this, we're going to have to take a short break. And we'll come back.
You're making my job so easy. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's what
so we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to continue talking with Matt from Cheat Codes and talking about their song Heaven and Love. Welcome back to Life Rhythms Radio Show. I'm your host, Ryan Skyy. I've got very special guest Matt from the group Cheat Codes with me. Hey, Matt.
What up?
And I got my manager and co-host Scott Wallman.
St. Louis in the house.
Yo. Creepy crawl.
Creepy crawl. So we're featuring the Cheat Codes. The song you just listened to on the way in, the song is called Heaven. It's a song out by the Cheat Codes, Matt's group, the other guys in the group, Kevin and Trevor. And something interesting, and when I look at the lyrics of the song Heaven, one of the lyrics, blind faith when I'm falling for you. So the first half of this segment, we were talking about love and attraction and kind of like the healthy ways of going about manifesting someone in your life. I'd be interesting to talk about the flip side of the coin here. I've got a quote that I'm going to read to you, Matt and Scott, and let's just spitball based off of this quote. Let's see where it leads us. So it's interesting, Matt. You mentioned the power of now. I've mentioned in previous episodes. The author's Eckhart Tolle. I stan Eckhart Tolle, huge fan. But so this is what Eckhart has to say about romantic love, and I'm curious what we have to say about his quote. So Eckhart Tolle, this is what he says. He says, "The reason why the romantic love relationship is such an intense and universally sought after experience is that it seems to offer liberation from a deep-seated state of fear, need, lack, and incompleteness that is part of the human condition in its unredeemed and unenlightened state. There is a physical as well as a psychological dimension to this state." That's what Eckhart has to say about romantic love. So I was reading other things that he said, and his ideas and teachings is that sometimes the intensity of being attracted to someone, we feel it so strongly is because it temporarily kind of fills that lack that we have within us. And for that moment in time, we don't feel the lack in anymore. It's like that person is kind of, they are kind of masking this incompleteness that we have inside of us. And so we start to look at that person intensely as like, this is the answer to my feeling complete. This person is the answer.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you complete me.
What do you guys think about that?
Well, okay, so I'm an Aquarius, and
Me too.
my partner is an Aquarius as well. And something about Aquarius, they feel very misunderstood, but they also are okay with it in a weird way. So I think when you find somebody that you feel like they understand you, it makes you feel like you're not alone in the world, and you feel like you can have a certain type of conversation that maybe you can't have with the average person. So
Okay.
I do think that, and I think also just on a pure energy perspective, I think a relationship should be a vehicle for giving. You know, everything that you give comes back to you. So it's like if you have a partner, that's somebody that you can give to on a very regular basis, and it's all that's always going to come back to you. That's always going to come back energy wise. So I think there's something sometimes if you're like single, you know, you see those like single people and maybe they're bitter or like they look at other couples and they're like, blah, blah. And
yeah.
I think if you have that, I'm not saying, I think you can be single and be perfectly happy. So I don't think that you need a partner to be happy or be complete. I don't buy into that, but I think you can have that mentality of you're cutting off the giving. Like you don't feel like you want to be giving to other people or just giving to random people on the street. Not everybody wants to just smile at a random person as they walk by. You know what I mean? Like I do that because I think it's fun. But not everybody's into that. So sometimes certain people, they would need to feel more comfortable and they feel like they need to know somebody better before they can give to them. So I think a relationship can become that. And then it's like once you have your life partner, then it's like, oh, I'm going to be giving to you for the next 50 years. You know, and you have that mentality, then it's like.
Yes. Yeah. And so the person kind of becomes this springboard where I love the idea of that you talk about giving. And then also how they're reflecting it back to you. So it's like you find somebody where you're giving them love, but it's also coming back to you. So it's almost like they are helping you experience your own love, right? You can have that experience through other things. I imagine you may experience that with music and stuff that you do with cheat codes.
Right, exactly. It's like anyone who's ever practiced gratitude or like gave thanks for something, they immediately feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like anytime I've played a show and like I'm putting all this energy out to the crowd, I always have an adrenaline rush and I'm always amped right when I get off stage. So it's like I'm giving to these people that are they're also giving to me because they're paying to be there. But then by the end of it, I'm filled up, you know?
Yeah. It all comes down to intentions. We were just a week or so ago, I had Chad from Tritonal on, and Chad.
I love Chad.
Yeah, Chad, we were talking about intentions, and this conversation reminds me of that because I remember hearing somewhere about they've done studies with regards to doing charity work, and they found that every single thing that we do as a human is for personal gain, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
It's okay, but it comes down to the intention. And so, for instance, they studied people who do charity work, and they were doing it when you really, really, really get down to the core of it. You're doing it because it makes you feel good, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's the intention is that, yes, is that you want to feel good, so you're helping other people. Is that a bad thing? I don't think that's a bad thing to acknowledge that.
I think it can be beneficial to some people because certain people, they feel it's their responsibility to suffer for other people's comfortability. And like, I don't believe in that. I believe that, like I said, in the last section about Will Smith's advice for marriage of like making yourself the best person possible and then showing up for your partner. I believe that, and I think you should, wake up, have like an hour or two before you start the day and like get your mind right and then give your best self to the world. I don't think you should, people that go to work or they're like a housewife or they're in a family and they feel like they need to be stressed out for their family. I don't believe in that concept because I just think that you can take the time and then have a good day and actually give more to the people around you. If you take, it's like the airplane thing, right? The pressure drops and they say, put your mask on first, fill up with oxygen, and then
Before you help
right.
the person next to you, you got to help yourself first.
Right.
That makes sense. When you talk about getting your mind right, how long does that take you?
I think it's all about momentum. But for example, there's a bunch of different exercises that I do. So I have one that's like a Kundalini exercise that I can do in like 4 minutes.
Okay.
It's actually called the Ego Eradicator.
Oh, I got to hear about this.
So you put your hands up
like
this. You do kind of like this with your thumb. And then you just do breath of fire for 4 minutes. And by the end of it, your arms are on fire.
You have your arms up above your head?
Yeah, kind of like this angle. Yeah.
Okay, and then what's breath of fire?
Breath of fire, you're breathing with your diaphragm.
Uh-huh. Through your nose?
Yeah, through your nose. And by the end of the 4 minutes, your arms are on fire. And there's something with the nerve endings like in your armpit area that it basically your whole body is tingling and whatever you were thinking about and worried about, you're not even thinking about anymore. It just kind of destroys your ego. The ego eradicator.
The present?
Yeah. So if I'm like in my head before a show, like I'm worried or like I'm just feeling insecure or like, oh, I hope they like this song that I plan on playing tonight. You know what I mean? Whatever. I'll do that. And then I won't be thinking anything before I go on stage.
Interesting.
Because I do get anxiety. Like I'm kind of an anxious person. I get anxiety. So these kind of things help me out.
That's cool. Scott.
What up?
Fire. Breath fire.
Breath of fire.
Breath of fire.
I just want to say that I think that there's a huge difference just in a romantic relationship between love and infatuation.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
And whenever someone says love at first sight, I kind of scoff and I'm just like, you got a boner at first sight, dude.
Well, do you guys believe that love is love a verb? Is it a noun? Is love something that you do, or is love something that you achieve?
Both.
I think I tend to focus on it more as a verb because I think that I think the moment that you think, oh, okay, I got it. Like, oh, this is my wife or this is my girlfriend. Like, we're good. Then you start slacking, right?
Yeah.
You stop giving her flowers. You stop like giving her compliments, and then all of a sudden it deteriorates. It's like you got to keep filling up the tank, filling up the car with gas. Otherwise, it's going to be on empty, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The infatuation is critical in the beginning because that infatuation is what keeps you guys interacting until you can get to know each other and bond to the point where then you have this bond.
Your eventual love if it's possible, because you really can't be in love with someone. You could be in love with the idea of someone, but it's if you don't know someone at all, that's like me being in love with Jennifer Aniston.
Right, but yeah, even that, I think it just comes down to if you really love yourself and you really fill up yourself, you can almost love anyone. You know, it's like if you were on an island stranded with one other person, but you had the right headspace, I mean, I think you can make it work. You know?
Let's hope we don't have to find out.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens after the end of COVID.
Yeah. It wouldn't be ideal, but I was just saying.
Yeah, love and infatuation. So Scott, how long have you been married for?
I've been married in August 4 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Congrats.
Thanks, man. Congrats on your 2-year relationship.
Yeah. Thanks.
Remix as a roommate.
Yeah, I'm single. I got a date tonight, but
It'll be over FaceTime.
Well, I'm so curious what being single and dating is like during COVID.
It's there's not a lot of options of things that you can do.
Are people still like on using Tinder?
Yeah. We met on Tinder. Our first date was in public, and we met each other for the first time with masks on. Actually, I had a face shield on, but it's just, and you're laughing because you know that moment of meeting somebody for the first time in general is weird.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have a mask on your face, so you're just like, "Is this really life
It's
now?"
like a game show. It's like content.
You're like, oh. As they pull down the mask, it's in slow motion. You're like, I hope she's not catfishing.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is not a lot of options right now of things that you can do. But
I guess it's like more outdoorsy stuff, especially since it's summer.
Outdoorsy stuff, or the converse of like Netflix and chill kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys like both like show up with your negative test results of COVID?
No. Well, that's the thing is even if you test negative, you could still be incubating, right? Like you could not show any symptom.
Right.
Or I could test negative and then catch it the next day.
That's why I'm super paranoid.
No. I know.
Yeah, I'm just lucky and blessed to be like young and healthy like during this time, so I don't really have to worry about it too much. But yeah, I definitely know multiple people that have gotten really sick from it. So it's serious. It's definitely serious.
Yeah, it is serious. Speaking of serious, I want to talk about the song some more. Heaven, your single that we're featuring today,
Yeah,
and specifically the concept of heaven. I'm curious, what do you believe, Matt, about heaven? Do we have heaven on earth here? Does heaven exist? Are there different forms of heaven? According to Wikipedia, heaven is often described as the highest place. Paradise, the holiest place. So it's kind of like the highest place that we can get to.
Yeah, I definitely believe in energy, and I don't know if I necessarily believe in like heaven with the pearly gates, like someone's saying if you can come in or not. That idea seems a little weird, like that someone's like, you didn't live good enough of a life, you're not allowed in. That seems a little
look what
bizarre.
You did November 2nd.
That seems a little bizarre, but I definitely believe in the idea of energy, and just energy never dies. It can never be created or destroyed. So I do believe if you have positive energy and you just develop that momentum throughout your life, you know, even if you die, I think it's gonna live on in some way, shape, or form after you die. You know, and that can even just be an idea, you know, like, or changing the world, you know. So
yeah, I love in the song Heaven, I love that you guys talk about how when I'm lying in this bed with you, I'm in heaven, how the experience that the two people have together is creating their own heaven. And regardless of whether listeners, if you're religious or not, regardless, just kind of the concept of if heaven is this highest state, right, whether it's when we die, we go there, or just a place that we can get to consciously, then it makes sense to me that when you fall in love with someone, when you're experiencing this infatuation, you're experiencing the highest state of your own being in the present moment. You're alive. It is like you're in heaven, even if it's just for a moment.
Yeah, I think that my concept of heaven is also the idea of eternity and infinity. It's like people I picture, they get to heaven and it's like, oh, this is it. Like I'm chilling in the clouds forever. Yeah. So it's like when you're with your soul, when you're with your soulmate or whatever, it's like time stops. So it's like the idea of like you're in that moment, you're not in your head, everything stops. You're in the bed, when I'm lying in this bed with you, and like you're not thinking about anything else in the outside world. You're in that moment.
Present. You're in the present moment.
Yeah. And that could feel like a lifetime almost, you know?
Yeah, sometimes when I meditate, time feels like it stops. And only maybe 5 minutes go by, but it could feel like so much longer.
Or when you're in a dream and it feels like you lived like 2 years worth of life, but it was 7 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, or even less. And you're like, oh my God, the weirdest dream. So much has happened. Time's such a weird thing. Scott, we make jokes about you being Jewish. We made jokes about you being Jewish.
Why would you do that? No, continue.
This is topical. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the concept of heaven?
You know, honestly, I'm agnostic, but in the Jewish religion, we don't even believe in a heaven or hell. So it's like when you're dead, you're dead. What Matt said about energy, it does make sense because a lot of what we put out into the world stays there. Whether if I was positive with someone and they live on and I die, then the energy that I exuded towards them will live on in human form. Or conversely, if I was a jerk face to that person, anytime they think of me, they think, oh wow, Scotty's a poop.
Yeah,
negative.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like, think about even like Kobe Bryant. It's like all the people he inspired that don't even care about basketball.
Yeah,
it's like what? You're not even a basketball fan, like.
Amazing.
But you're just inspired by his mentality and just his willingness to accomplish and go for what he wanted, and never back down and never stop believing in himself. You know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Matt, in an interview with the young folks, you said, and I love this quote, you said, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Wow.
It's online.
I don't even remember saying that, but I love that. I love that quote. I didn't come up with that quote, by the way. I definitely regurgitated that from something.
Well, I wanted to bring it up because I love it. Wherever it came from, you mentioned it. I'm mentioning it now as well. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And how, I'm curious, certainly you have a vibe in cheat codes and the music that you put out. You guys have put out an eclectic array. First of all, I want to say, we didn't talk about this, but as a DJ, I play a lot of your music, remixes and original stuff. Yeah. I love cheat codes music, and it's very eclectic. But there is a very specific vibe in it, and I'm starting to see like for instance, I mentioned Chad from Tritonal, and we were talking about how your DNA is in their music. And I imagine now talking to you, and I'm hearing you talk about meditation and breath work and mentioning some of the things that I'm into, like Eckhart Tolle. Your DNA is certainly in your music. So the vibe attracts your tribe. I imagine the music has got to be what's bringing people to you. I mean, I see you smiling. It's got to be resonating, right?
It's great. I actually worked on a song with Chad, and he's a really great guy, and we have a similar mentality. So I think it's awesome that you're bringing him up. But I mean, Chad's like a perfect example of just like, I maybe only really met him once or twice in real life, but we just had the similar vibe, and we just attracted towards working on stuff together. So. That's what's great about the internet age right now is like you can really connect with people that have like-minded, and there's really no other explanation than just you kind of synced up on the same frequency. So I definitely believe in that for sure.
And do you believe that the universe is always conspiring Do you believe in chance, or do you believe that things are happening because of what you?
I'm a very visual person, so the way I visually perceive it is that we're like a power block, and we're sending out energy to the universe, and whatever we send out, we get back. And if you're not aware of what you're sending out, then you're leaving it up to chance. Like that can kind of, your momentum and your energy can be influenced by other people, what other people are sending out. But if you're intending on sending out a certain it's like radio frequencies, right? Like if you're tuned into Power 106, like you're going to get 106, you know, you're not going to even hear the pop station. You're not even going to hear those pop songs. You're only going to hear the hip hop songs. You're not even going to know those exist, which is why you see these people like during lockdown, like skipping down the street with a big grin on your face. And you're like, what are you happy about? Like everyone's scared for their lives right now. What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh, I got my head in the sand. I'm not even paying attention to that. I'm not even tuned into that.
You know, you just reminded me of, I guess, what happens on Facebook, where it's like, if your entire feed is liberal, then you're not going to see outside that bubble, you know, that Trump has a base. And vice versa, if you have a conservative feed. You know,
oh, Trump has a base.
Oh, trust me, I know. It scares the shit out of me.
Facebook is a scary, scary place, man. I mean, please, whoever's listening, don't get your information from Facebook.
I didn't realize how much of a bubble social media puts us in until in 2016 when Trump was running the first time. I didn't think he stood a chance. It's when nobody thought he stood a chance. I didn't think that it was even going to be close. And then I was living in LA. My family lives in Western Pennsylvania, small town of Western Pennsylvania. Typically goes blue in the presidential election. I remember going home to visit my family. This is maybe a month or two before the election. And I'm driving from the airport to see my family in Western Pennsylvania. And I start seeing all these Trump signs in yards. And I was shocked. Because I am in LA, I'm in my bubble here on Facebook and social media. I don't see it. You know, I'm in my little bubble with like-minded people. And then the news I'm watching, you know, it's all just feeding the same thing. And it wasn't until I actually went to Western Pennsylvania and I saw all the Trump. I was really surprised and ended up going red that election and helped him win. But yeah.
Same with Missouri. Like I'm from Missouri. It is interesting being in California because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even vote the last election because it's like, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm in California, they're gonna vote Democrat. Like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. So it's kind of interesting. Like, you're just like stuck with your state, like whatever they decide. But yeah, like people are in their bubbles for sure, and it becomes an echo chamber of you just want to hear what you want to hear.
I love that echo chamber. I love
that. Yeah, that's the verbiage. And
let me write that down.
Yeah.
That'd be a great song. Hanging out with, you know, people that think the same way as you, it's going to be everyone be like, yeah, fuck that guy, fuck that guy, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people who think conservatively are the smartest people in the room, because they're not. But I really like to actualize this, especially when we can. But if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how are we on time? I think we're coming to the end. Yeah. Yep. So we're coming to the end of the, it's such a good time talking with you, Matt.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been great.
You listening to the show, I encourage you, check out Cheat Codes, their new single, Heaven. And do you want to give out your socials?
Yeah, you can follow us. Everything is just at Cheat Codes.
Okay.
I forget, one of them might be Cheat Codes Music, but most of them are Cheat Codes. So
yeah, pretty easy. Just do a search for Cheat Codes. Check out the single Heaven. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on the show, Life Rhythms. It's been such a pleasure having you on here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. That wraps it up for today. Till next time.